right? This historical views to where they try to skew history and create these theories saying that early human beings all came encounter with people of white blood, basically, and that's how they were able to advance throughout time. And the darker skinned people who were the original, saying that they were the lesser uncivilized people, and they were saying that the lighter people who came later on were more civilized or more advanced and evolved. So it's like once you get to that point to where you get to root out that thought and that influence where it like truly comes from, that's where them people can see themselves as like, oh, wait a minute, the darker and more connected I am, that's the more original I am. Because some people still have that influence because it was never corrected into the minds of the people. The influence was just left there to spread out and cause war and racism and apartheid and all other issues and what exists now and until today. Because there was what they called a white tribe. So a lot of white men started traveling, going to different places where it was more so only black tribes there. But then they'll find what they viewed as white people. Right? Well, it was later found out it was more so those white men seeing what they wanted to see. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't even that the people were white, it's just that Africa has such a diverse range of gene pool that the people come in all different colors. So when they seen one that was different from the other, light skin, different features, they said, oh, this is a white man. And so that influence has spread across. So they just jumped off the porch and started trying to find themselves when they started feeling lonely, when they started moving to different parts of Africa. Global route that they have people take, so it's like it allows people to go through spiritual trips to where like if a person is addicted to heroin, it takes them through like a day or a 2-day trip with their own subconscious, and when most people come out the opposite end, we could have walked right here, when most people come out the opposite end, it cures them of their addiction, but they won't make it legal in the States or in most places because I mean, for the one, it's effective. You know what I mean? It's like they ban most of the things that are truly effective, you know what I mean, utilizing nature, even though pharmaceutical companies can get all of their stuff FDA approved, even though they have side effects like suicide. So it's like amazingly crazy that we snuff our nose up at nature, and at the same time, we would love chemicals made by scientists to put in our bodies and pollute us forever. So it's a sad reality. But I know a bunch of people who could utilize the e-global route just here in the streets. I'd love to do like a trial test or where you just go give it to all of those drug addicted individuals and let them go through that journey, that psychedelic journey, you know what I mean? And then come out on the other end and they may be able to come back out with their mind, you know what I mean? And curb that addiction. So, you know, the gold water that I got, it help people curb alcoholism, you know what I mean, and caffeine, but you ain't... That heroin and crack and you know what I mean, all of those other different things, that's totally different. Even some people said they stopped smoking weed when they got gold water. That's why I buy stuff. They deserved your money. That's why I buy stuff that don't have logos on it, so it becomes my style when I put it on. You know, it's kind of like buying wholesale when you buy stuff from people that don't have logos on it. You don't have to sell their brand every single day because they didn't do nothing to help me build my brand. So why would I do anything to help them promote theirs? We got to stop promoting these people for free and then, you know, making our people pay a fee for the promotion. I don't think that's real. You know what I mean? If I was to ask one of these celebrities for some promotion, they want to charge me $10,000. Yet they pay Gucci and all of these other entities for promotion every single day, and they think it makes them better, the fact that they got these brands, because most people don't know themselves, so they need outside things to validate who they are. Once we get away from that, and we start focusing on things like community building, knowledge of self, enlightening ourselves, getting our own resources, farming, right, getting real estate, getting into business, getting into all these systems of economic development. A lot of us have the revolutionary spirit, but we don't have a plan to go with it. And a man without a plan is left up to those who do have a plan. And in the African language, there's not too many words for near future, so a lot of people don't plan, so we get caught up in everybody else's situation. So if it's two people in a car and one person is asking, yo, well, you get in a car and you don't know where you want to go, guess where you going? Well, whoever know where they want to go, right? So we've been in this vehicle of white America for a long time because they know what their plans are for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, that we're stuck being driven wherever white supremacy takes us. And it's time for us to take control of our own will so we can have control over our destiny.
I'm one of them people that when you got talent in the room, you use it. You never allow great people to be next to you and not use them. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people out there, you know, Martin Luther King did a speech about the street sweeping. Y'all remember the street sweeper? And he talked about that. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a street sweeper. There's nothing wrong with being a janitor. There's nothing wrong with working for other people. But the point that I'm making here is, I'm sure glad that Martin Luther King found his talents and his gifts and didn't stay a street sweeper. He woke up and he had a dream that impregnated a lot of minds to go out and speak their dreams into existence. The moral of this story, it's a lot of leaders out there who are working for other people when you was called to be a creator. You need to put your energy and faith into being a creator and not spending your time on somebody else's job. Now, to all the people who was created to work jobs, salute. The world needs you, and we appreciate your existence. But there's too many damn people out there with creativity and gifts that shouldn't be on no job. All you got to do is make $100 a day. It's $3,000 a month. Figure this shit out and get your money, man.
I'm well. I'm here. I'm living. I'm breathing. I'm able-bodied, and that alone, I'm just eternally grateful.
We got you live and direct on camera. What dream are you speaking into existence?
Man, the dream I'm speaking into existence is that I'm gonna live in the high rise. It's one of them beautiful skyscrapers, you know, in San Francisco. I'm gonna have income coming in every day, growing every day, you know, and I'm gonna inspire others out there to do the same and live their dream and be the best self. You know, that's me, Emmanuel Hodge, Strong Ego. Follow me on Instagram, all the things, man. Much love to Billionaire PA. For sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, bro. I appreciate you. I'm gonna hit you. We're gonna knock this interview out. I'm gonna hit you back.
Okay, for sure, man.
Alright.
Alright.
Well. Hey, man. It's a blessing. It's a blessing, man. I don't got nothing poetic to say, but it's a blessing to be black, young, and come from Alexander City, Alabama. Grandmama used to live in a house with no lights. One of the biggest praying women I've ever met in my life. And she always told me to take my negative energy and just put it on something positive. It's good to have people that believed in you when you didn't even believe in yourself. Because thank God for them prayers that she gave me, I now understand my worth, my power, and to go from Alexander City, Alabama to Oakland, San Jose, and San Francisco, living in the back of a truck with just the idea and then birthing it. You know what I'm saying? I celebrate my birthday on the 19th of every month. A lot of y'all might not even put this together, and then to, you know, meet 19 Keys. This wasn't, we didn't plan this. This was already designed. I was already celebrating my birthday, if y'all know me, on the 19th of every single month for the past 3 years. And then boom, you get out your truck, you traveling the world. And I remember being locked up and my grandmama said, get on people your body, but don't get on people your mind. I let my mind go to Hawaii, London, and now boom, we physically here. Y'all be playing, man, if y'all say y'all believe in God, but y'all don't believe in the words that you speak. You really can manifest whatever you want. And if you broke right now, you broke because you manifested that shit. It's people calling us, man, from London. Like, we in London, they calling us saying they inspired. We don't sell dope. We just sell dope products. Keith, tell me, man, get this camera off me, man.
Peaceful greetings, family. This is Yaya, and here we are in Oneversation with Brother Keys, the formidable, the just outstanding, and just, I'm just going to pass it on.
Thank you.
Pass
I
it on.
appreciate you. Thank
Love
you.
and honor. This brother is just so necessary to our life. And so here we are. In our Oneversation, we give thanks.
Well,
Brothers,
I appreciate you.
Speak to the
That's
people.
love.
Love and honor, always. Yes, it's an honor to have you here in this space.
It's a
and
blessing
just
to be here.
Communing with you and just sharing information and just that energy exchange.
Mm-hmm.
You're appreciated and you are honored.
Thank you.
Yes.
Give thanks, as you say.
As we say,
I mean?
we give thanks.
I like to say received. Just because somebody gives you something, you got to receive it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of been a paradigm shift of thinking. When somebody says thank you, it's like, I received it.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yes. Give thanks.
So what we got on the menu today?
So, on the menu, we have a few things, but we're going to touch on what I know the people are just ready to receive.
Yeah.
So we're going to touch it off and start off like this. Please introduce yourself to the people, your name, what it signifies, and yeah, just school our people.
Well, I go by 19 Keys. I'm from Oakland, California. I consider myself a world changer. A world changer is one who changes people's thinking, because that's where a person's world exists, inside their mind. So I go around the world and I change people's pattern of thinking from lower states of consciousness to higher states of consciousness until they can continue to live in God consciousness forever. And so we may live on the same planet, but we live in different worlds. So the more we have a collective world view on living within righteousness, the quicker we can change the world to something that we actually want to see.
Right.
And utilizing my skill sets in every different facet is how I actually change people's mindset, whether it's designing myself, whether it's designing the crowns, the gold water, my articulative speech patterns, thought concepts, whatever it may be. It's all utilizing, your skills to change the world. So I think in the quickest way of defining who I am, I can do it in that manner based off what I do.
Powerful.
Thank you.
What was the turning point for you to need a change, implementing change and so forth?
For me, that's always an interesting question, because there was never a point in time where I considered myself to become woke. It was more so a point in time where I considered myself to start doing the work.
Right. Wow. Okay.
And the way I look at it, ever since I was, in the infantile stage, my parents always told me I was a god. And so the development of that understanding was always my life's journey, not from an egoist God complex, but more so understanding that a God must have knowledge, a God must have force, a God must have power. So how do you give yourself, force, power, and knowledge? You have to go upon that journey. You have to go upon that mission. And so I believe ever since I was younger, I've been teaching black men knowledge of self, because growing up as an FOI, which means Fruit of Islam, which is the military branch of the Nation of Islam, which is the group of, I wouldn't just solidify it as the group of black Muslims, but more so when I say black, I'm talking about the original mindset that we have as righteous people that's connected to our nature. So, and growing up in Oakland, even when we used to have our FOI classes, which was like Monday meetings and things of that nature, where men would come together and talk about business, they talk about spirituality, talk about the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and training and boxing and a myriad of different things. There would be men who would come out on the street, whether they just got out of jail, or they just getting off drugs, or whether they just maybe lost, found, and never heard anybody tell them who they were. Yeah. I could be 9, 10 years old and be tasked with the opportunity to be the first person to tell that this black man, like, yo, you a god.
Wow.
But
Give
see,
thanks.
At the same time, we grew up in the streets, right? So growing up in the streets, I'm very grateful for it, because it gave a duality, right? It was never shielded from the world. It was never a privileged, lifestyle. It was more, a very realist lifestyle, just multidimensional in many different aspects. So even, I got into gangs, I got into selling drugs, I got many court cases, fights, a bunch of different things, but I still always had that multidimensional aspect of being consciously aware of what the world was around us. So I remember growing up, it was never a time where I was ever surprised about what's happening in the world, because I already taught who the black man was and who the white man was. And when I say man, I mean the mind. Right? So man is mind. So the question is, what is the white mind and what is the black mind? You know what I mean? And in that development and understanding of those two natures being polar opposites, anytime I seen something, it was kind of like knowing the nature of a snake. That if this snake is nature is to bite you, then, and you got the knowledge, then the knowledge is supposed to be, the opportunity to not get bitten and handle this snake the certain way. And if the snake does bite you, you can't get mad, because it's only acting based off its nature. So the nature of the white mind in America is always to cast a shadow on the black mind, to keep you unenlightened, to keep you ignorant, to keep you impoverished, to keep you in conditions that will not allow you to gain sovereignty and power yourself up. So the goal has always been to get to a place to where we can establish the order of who we were, so we can live back within our nature again. I talked about, I believe it was the Pygmy people with you earlier, on how, they live in an isolated area and they don't have
Yes.
crime.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They have sex, they dance, they hunt, they practice whatever magic they do, and they are very closely in tune with the nature. They know exactly what roots is going to do this and what tree does this, that, and the third. And modern man is so disconnected from his
Yeah.
nature that he can never get properly in tune with the universe and to be in harmony with itself. And we have an issue of emasculation. We have an issue of masculation within the women, right, and effemination within the men, and this imbalance throws off the universal alignment that we were born with, right? So the goal right now, because you asked me a question, I just get to going.
Please do.
But
Please
what the
do.
goal right now is
Let's do it.
to get the black mind back aligned. Right, to get it back aligned and back in tune into enlightenment, because enlightenment is actively making a change with the wisdom and knowledge that you have.
That's
You can make a person aware of something. That don't mean they're going to produce a change. We're in the UK right now,
right.
and there's embedded within you all's culture still is McDonald's and cigarette smoking. Even though that we have been disclosed with the information to know that this is completely harmful to our health. Right? But
Yeah.
how do you get a people so desensitized to information that they know is bad for them, but they
But
still
still-
continue to do it? Right now, y'all don't have it as worse as us when it comes to marketing. Right? The marketing in America is overemphasized, bigger signs, much flashier. It's meant to make everything seem bigger than what it is.
Yeah.
You all have almost a truer state of marketing. It's not super flashy. You go to America, everything is just strobed at you all day, constantly selling you something.
Yeah.
So that was the point of making the crowns, is to have something that represents your higher consciousness, because I want to be able to propagate and market you your higher self. I want to be able to market you godliness, and not from a Christianized standpoint, right? But from our original nature.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Not talking about religion. I'm talking about our way of life.
Come on.
Right? The universal alignment.
Come on,
Sun,
speak
moon,
on
and
it.
stars.
I'm so glad you neatly flowed into that space of the significance of your crowns and so forth. So I was just about to touch in on that. Just touch a little bit on the significance of these elements and how we are interconnected with these elements as African people, as Black people, as carbon people.
The reason I started the journey of 19 Keys, or when I was first impressioned about the journey of 19 Keys, I heard a quote from Master Fard Muhammad, and he said that there are 17 million original people and there's 2 million Indians. And the original people was representing Black people in America, of course. And he said that means that there's 19 million rusty locks. And he said there's 19 million well-oiled keys to unlock those minds. And when he said well-oiled, he's talking about, within the mind to secreting the oil within the mind to, unlock that kundalini or that pineal gland activation. But we are in a state where we haven't been enlightened for so long, and you needed somebody to come along and enlighten those people. And he used to go door to door, and they said that he renamed over 25,000 people, because Master Fard Muhammad is the one who taught Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who is the one who taught Malcolm X, right, or the one who taught Minister Louis Farrakhan or Muhammad Ali. And so tracing back that root understanding of those 19 keys, it really goes deep. But the reason I bring this up, because they said that Master Fard Muhammad was a silk peddler, meaning that he used to go door to door selling silks, and this was his way of entering the homes of Black people in America. And what he would do in order to give them the keys necessary, he would ask them the questions to see what they was missing. And as he figured out what they was missing, then he can give them the necessary knowledge to make that link so they can have a bridge of enlightenment and they can start their journey of self-knowledge. So when I think about those silks that he pushed and those fabrics that he pushed, right, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the one who signified, the crown so well that he popularized it in the world, even though these symbols are cosmic. In Ghana, they represent celestial.
Yes.
In yogis, it represents the crown chakra, and in many different forms across the planet Earth, you see most of the flags have star and crescent in it, because those are those cosmic symbols. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in the Theology of Time that you see the universe on our heads, it represents our rule in this universe. So it's like, what is significant that represents that you rule anything over this planet Earth? right? What is significant of the things that you wear, because style is supposed to communicate who you are. So even as we design ourselves, we create the interaction that everybody else has with us. So when you see a man with knowledge of self, you have to treat him as such. When you see a man that walks and position himself stomach in, chest out, head up as a soldier, you treat him like a soldier, right?
Absolutely.
But one that is broken down, that don't know his name, don't know his people, don't know his history, don't look like it, don't dress like it, don't act like it, what y'all consider to be waste man, which want to become top boys or road men. We call them block boys where I'm from. You know what I'm saying? We call them real niggas, you know what I mean, where I'm from. But the goal is to go from the boy stage, the real nigga, the top boy, to become top gods. You know what I'm talking about? And so a man like Keys, because I'm out here in the UK, I want to crown the world. I want everybody to be crowned, to understand that once you put on that crown, it's representing your higher self. I'm not saying you perfect, but I'm saying you have the ability to strive and pull out the potential of godliness, and you should represent that in your everyday action.
Absolutely.
You should walk outside and let the world know who you are.
Absolutely.
Just by what you got on your head, right? But it's not just about me putting the crown on you.
Yeah.
It's about that the crown is already there. This is just aesthetic for your higher mind. So when in America, there was a movie called Colors, and that movie actually infiltrated the minds of the ghettos, of black people in the ghettos, and it taught them how to gangbang. Right, taught them how to wear the bandanas on their head and to throw up certain colors and things of that nature. So I said, wait a minute, nobody's banging righteousness on us though. If it was propagated to us, then in order to polarize the issue or come with the polarity of that, thing in a righteous manner, then where's our crowns at, right? So I've always been into design, and design has been sort of my communication of rebellion, because growing up in Oakland, there was a time where being Muslim was not a popular thing. After 9/11, and then after this other organization that had failed, a lot of people start changing their names. A lot of people start dropping it. It was a lot going on. But for me, I said, nah, I'm not about to move in fear. So I remember I made a shirt that said, Assalamu alaikum. And as I made the shirt, I walked around, and the response was enormous, because nobody else was going out there and telling people I'm a Muslim, right? Especially no black people was doing it at the time. So when I did it, it was popularized, and it was one of my best sellers when I started off. And I just evolved over time to where I wanted something else that I could wear. And so I designed the crowns first for myself, because everything I always designed for myself, right? So they started off printed. And then I used to work for Prada, so I stole their information in the luxury world, utilized it for myself.
Well done.
And then I started doing the embroidery. Yeah, and now I'm doing the EMFs, to where I put the electric magnetic frequency chips actually within the crowns that protect you from cell phone radiation, to where it's protecting your brain cells and your actual crown chakra itself. So it's we have to be evolving people. Even when we create and design things, you can't say you're a god if your creativity is not showing. Right? So it's how can we tap into that creative capacity and show and prove, and not just talk and say?
Powerful and profound. And see, he dropped those gems in terms of how the elements, we go back to the elements again, and we to restore ourselves, to replenish, and to get the body back into its optimum way of functioning. So that's imperative. You spoke of putting the
EMF.
There you go. You touched on Malcolm X. Speaking about Malcolm X and how he was schooled and mentored by, please refresh my memory, by
the
the
Honorable
elder
Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, exactly. What is your just connection with the works that Brother Malcolm X did, and how do you?
I'll be honest, with Malcolm X, I didn't grow up with Malcolm X as a figure, as a heroic figure in my household. You have to understand that during the time, and I was recently watching an interview with Dapper Dan. Dapper Dan is the one who popularized Gucci to the streets.
Yes.
And he was talking about how when he was locked up in jail, it was right after Malcolm X he was locked up in jail with Malcolm's killer. And he was talking about how Malcolm's killer was being held as a hero almost, because Malcolm at the time was not celebrated for what he had done, and how his works and his actions had divided the nation. And you have to understand at a time where black people in America had come together, like the nation was the stronghold. It was going in the apartment buildings and the ghettos and securing and raising men and families and taking pimps off the streets and reforming and redeeming them. So here you have, a singular entity like the Nation of Islam that exists. And then you bring up somebody like Red who, comes out of jail, who's a pimp, who's a hustler, and you rename him and you give him knowledge of self. And the repaying back of that is almost a spit in the face to all of those who had got so much knowledge and like just got restored from Elijah Muhammad. And now you're sort of breaking their faith. You know what I mean? And so it's like you have to imagine if you're a man and you're a woman that come off the street and you just got your mind restored to this higher place, and now somebody, right, is attacking that source, right? You take that personal.
Absolutely.
So with Malcolm X, it's a very interesting story because I think people always view Malcolm X from the story of how we perceive it now in the future instead of what was happening at that actual time. Right? What was his connection with particular things, and why did he decide to go with that course of history? Who was the influence in his ear? Right? Like at the time he said that he knew that this would be divisive. He said he knew that this will cause more harm than good. But even with that consciousness, even with that full thought out, right, he still went with that action. And for me, when I look at the course of history, it wasn't a good decision that he made. Because a lot of people utilize Malcolm X as their excuse not to tap into knowledge of self, not to tap into the Nation of Islam. So what that did is it created a split in history to where a lot of people overemphasize the death of Malcolm X without looking at the life and the works of his teacher. So the fact that a lot of people across seas can know who Malcolm X is and not know who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is effectively shows how propaganda was used to hide the truth from you. And now his death is bigger than the teachings that made him Malcolm X in the first place. So it's it's unfortunate that a lot of people arrived at that opportunity, right, to become, right, and to be restored and redeemed the same way Malcolm X was. Because who would Malcolm X be without the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? That's the question that most people should ask themselves. Malcolm X was a man. And I think sometimes when a person dies, we figurize them above the status of man and seeing their decisions like, oh, he was making decisions. Some was logical, some was emotional, some was egoist. It was not from a stance of perfection, right? We all make mistakes. He apologized afterwards on tape. So, I mean, there's so much information that a lot of people don't know, but Malcolm X was one of the greatest articulators of of time. Like, he was amazing. He can go to Oxford. Yeah, I mean, he came out this way and he was able to debate with scholars, right? And sit in front of Congress and talk to them. And he got that knowledge from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But his gift of articulation, he was such a help to the nation at that time. That when you have somebody that's a star that turns, they become a super hindrance, not even to the nation, but to so many other people that would have been redeemed through that process. So, it's a bittersweet tale, but there's so much to learn from it, right? There's so much because every movement is bigger than one man. Every movement.
What are your thoughts on the African diaspora and those back home in Africa? And what are your thoughts and what is your take on the unification of us all? Connecting and building and so forth. Let's hear your views and your part.
There's a thing where a person grades civilizations based on their ability to harness energy. And they say that we live in what you call a type 0 civilization because we get all our energy from dead plants and coal, right? In a type 1 civilization, we'll be able to harness the power of the sun. And with harnessing the power of the sun, in 1 hour, you'll be able to actually power up all the devices and technology within the world. And I think about black energy across the planet Earth and what it take for us to get to a type 1 civilization. And within 1 hour of unity, we will have enough energy to be able to make and manifest all of the changes we ever wanted to see. but it requires us controlling our energy. In America, hip hop is billions and billions of dollars of an entity, but we don't own it. And across the planet, everybody else has learned how to utilize our energy and own it, but us. So we get to a point where we have allowed other people, influences, to infiltrate our mindsets and make some of us think we're Catholics, make some of us think we're Christians, make some of us think we this, that, and the third. And this doesn't allow us to ever come to that point of unity. So if like an alien were to visit a society and they see all of these black people, but then each one of these black people are calling themselves a different name from a different place, worshiping a different God with a different language and a different faith. And you will look at it from the overview of like, wait a minute, don't these people know if they would work together, the complaints are null and void? Don't these people know that the exact God that they're praying for is the unity that they could have between each other? So within the diaspora, there's so much influences in between each one of us on how we view each other, right? My brother was just talking about Rwanda and what happened out there with the people and the influences that happened that infiltrated the mindsets that made some people think that they were better because they were closer to whites, right? And these influences were created by, theories that other white men had created, Aryan views of white supremacy, just the languages in Africa and how we divided between so many different states and Eritrea against Ethiopia. And it's like, it's sad when you even think about the division that we perpetuate, even though it's engrossed in a lot of history, right? Yes, it's there. People can validate it to say, well, my family was against this, that, and the third. The question becomes is, when are we willing to sacrifice our grievances with each other so we can have unity and actually have power, right? Because it's not about freedom. You know who wants freedom? A slave, right? A slave only wants freedom, but a free man wants power. Power is the ability to have authority, to have rulership. So across the diaspora, I think individuals shouldn't have the utopian idea that we're just going to work with somebody because they're brown skinned, right? And I say brown skin on purpose because everybody with melanin ain't black, right? There's two spectrums of thinking that exist on this planet Earth. And on the one spectrum of thinking is the original man's thinking, right? That's the darkest thinking. That's the spectrum of everything was created out of triple darkness. And on the opposite side of that darkness is white, right? The newest man on the planet Earth. So,
Yes.
So when you think about the different spectrums of thinking, you have the yellow man, which would be the Asian, the red man, Indian, green, a bunch of different things. So I like to divide or observe people based on their spectrum of thinking and what is the color of your mind, right? So across the diaspora, we would have to ask ourselves, not just melanated people on the planet Earth, but what is the color of your mind? Because some people's DNA have been so compromised and their mind have been so colonized that they don't see you as your brother, right? They will see a fellow Asian or white man or Mexican closer than they would see you closer because we're divided by so much, right? So diversity, Africa is one of the most diverse continent on the planet Earth. And diversity does not start in skin color, it starts in the mind though. I can be in a room full of all black people and we can all have diverse thinking.
Yes.
And so when we look at that, the question arises is, when we celebrate, like, and black people, sometimes we celebrate other people because they're black, like, oh, those are black Brazilians or black Mexicans, but they don't look at us the same. A lot of people have self-hate. Even over here, there's self-hate. So the question becomes, how do we truly categorize what the diaspora is of righteous original people on the planet Earth that still have the same color of thinking, that actually want to build and collaborate with each other, that want to see the infrastructure of white supremacy fall and see an original world come back into existence. So the diaspora is divided by the spectrum of thinking that we all have. So my goal is not to just look at brown-skinned people on the planet Earth who have the potential of godliness, but those who are ready to be able to build, because separation is key. Right? In America, we had segregation. Segregation is forced by law to say that you can't be over here, you can't be over there. But in our worlds, we practice a microcosm of separation already. How many friends do you have? Right? But you know thousands of people.
Right.
You run into thousands of people, but the only people that we connect with is the people that's on our frequencies. right? That never works in no society. Look at America. America has some of the worst statistics of any country, right? When it comes to health, when it comes to education, when it comes to prison, right? Politics, even. So when we think about that, we have to say that integration robbed black people of power and ownership at a time where we had more schools and we had more ownership before we integrated. So the goal would be separate and get your power, and then y'all can have a conversation, right? But as long as I'm a tenant, you still my landlord, right? So the goal would be, no, let me move out and go get my own land. So now when we have conversations, we can do trade, right? We coming together with the same amount of power at the table. But we have to stop being in subservient positions, right? It's left up to the authority of the one who has the power. So when I think about the diaspora, that's kind of what comes to mind, is that, you know,
Yes.
how many real black-minded people exist on the planet Earth?
Wow, just, yeah. Your diet. What does your diet consist of, people? It's not just what we consume with food, it's what we're listening to. You know, what's being lodged up and edged up within our subconscious. You know, what's the music we're listening to? What's that frequency? What's the level of that frequency about? You know, so here right now, this frequency right now, so necessary. May you be fueled and nourished by it. May it evoke whatever it needs to invoke in you in order for you to reset, relearn, realign. We're moving on. What's your strategy that you think is mostly effective for young black people, Africans of the diaspora around the world? What do you think is more effective for the young hood brothers, man pan road? The most effective strategy that
I would say
relay, give, share for their mindset, for their being.
you have to give them something to do. You know, a lot of times we tell the youth what not to do, but we don't tell them what to do, right? Sure, there's plenty of resources. Sure, they can utilize technology and leverage their mind. For some people, that seems far away, right? Because we have what we call mental myopia, and that's an inability to importancize information for long-term thinking. Most people only see short-sighted, so they're trying to get some food for today, right? They're trying to just survive for the day. So when you give them information that can probably build their future, they can't import in it because they like, wait a minute, how is that going to help me today? You know what I mean? How is that going to help me survive through this? Wait a minute, I got so-and-so trying to kill me over here, right? So you have to get people to expand their mind, change their environment, and then teach them instructions on how to move better, right? So one of the things, you know, mindset is a very important thing, extremely important. The knowledge of self is the key. Right? One, studying themselves, learning about themselves so they know who they are and ground themselves. And also it allows them to study their environment to know how they've been trapped and how they've been set up. But then showing them and leading by example to say, wait a minute, I was there right where you were. Right? So if I did it, I have a mind and that's what allowed me to do it. You have a mind and that's what allowed you to do it. And so it's a very generalized question, but for me itself, I'm not the answer. Institutions, not institutions, but places like the Nation of Islam is the answer.
Yes.
Where young men can go into the mosque and they can have brotherhood, right? They can have somebody that shares and that can speak with them. Most of them are just looking for family. Most of them are looking for a tribe. Most of them, and it's like, so once you go amongst those, in those circles is where you're supposed to build the business, right? And economics, because if you can alleviate the economic issues that exist within us, then we can start building out the dreams, right? But the average young man can't dream because he's deprived of that, because he can't even figure out where he go sleep. You know what I mean? But everybody's comfortable with them calling themselves every other thing that's under the sun, but nobody's telling them who they truly are, but that's hidden for them for a reason. I mean, look at it. Minister Louis Farrakhan is banned from the UK out here.
Yeah.
You know, he can't even come out here. That information can't even
For
be
years.
spreaded. And so it's like, how many people that could have been helped by that message and what could have been seen are left in the dark. I met a man named Louis yesterday who didn't know who Louis Farrakhan was. And this man, just from my words, I believe that he felt the energy and the impression. But imagine if he knew, you know what I mean, where I got my source from, right? Like, I can just point you directly to the root, right? That's a re-energizing, a redeeming, a reforming, because it's not like I can just walk through the hood and pass out money. I give solutions to people, to problems, to where it's like, tell me what you want to do. I'll either give you the mindset to tell you what I did in order to put myself in a position.
And that is key.
Yes.
That is key.
Yeah. You can only teach people what you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I bear witness to that experience and that encounter yesterday, and it really moved me, you know, and just to see how brother responded. So basically a young brother, homeless brother, came up to Brother Keys and Brother Billionaire asking for money, and just the alchemy that took place within that moment, priceless, so priceless. What these brothers gave this brother was so much more valuable than them giving him the money exchange or giving him money. They instilled with him just mental tools in order for him to shift his paradigm, his experience, his moment into a much more, you know, better one for him, or just to start him on that journey of doing better and bringing about change and implementing change. And it was just so formidable. And you can check it out, actually. It's actually online. It's been posted. You can check out 19 Keys on Instagram and other platforms. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely.
And Billionaire PA on most of the social media platforms, and just feel. And you can take from that as well as, you know, because there's powerful gems, there's mental tools and spiritual tools that you could take, you know, and utilize that within yourself to evoke whatever needs to be evoked within you in order for you to start those movements that's necessary within your space and being. So yeah, that. Jay-Z, NFL, Colin Kaepernick.
You know, I talked about the difference between character versus intelligence. You know, there's some people who've been doing this for a very long time. Some people who really grassroots, who with the movement, who actively take a position and say that they're willing to be leaders within the world, right? Those are the people who do it 90% of the time, or some people do it 100% of the time. That's their character, right? That's the work that they put in all day long. And then there's some people whom, because they're smart enough to realize that their fan base has become more conscious, that they're intelligent enough to throw in more conscious rhetoric or do more conscious things to seem like the character that does it 100% or 90% of the time. And there's then the unfortunate benefit of the people who only do it 10% of the time getting the appreciation. Because it's almost as if, you know, if you see an ignorant rapper do one thing good, you're going to praise him like, oh, that's what's up. I love that. Or anybody really. But it's like, to me, I get the idea of why people get excited, but it means nothing. At the same time, you completely neglect the person that's doing 90% of the time and do their 10% business. You know what I'm saying? But for me, it's trying to figure out, is it character or is it intelligence when we see people act as if they're working for our conscious effort or our benefit, right? Because if I have a PR person that's telling me like, yo, you should post this or you should get involved in this, is going to be good for your image, that's just intelligence. Because you know that there's this point in time where your audience can outgrow where you are, right? They can outgrow your ignorance. Because here you have these people working 90% of the time, helping elevate the consciousness of your audience. So now you have to change what you talk about, but you're not doing it based off your character because you believe in these things. You want to keep and maintain your position in the world. Jay-Z is a capitalist. I like Jay-Z for a lot of things that he do. I haven't took a close look at this whole NFL Super Bowl project. But I don't remember Jay-Z namely coming out and saying that I'm a leader of black people. Right? I seen Jay-Z do some things 10% of the time. Right? And they got majorly great headlines. But I really don't care. You know, Jay-Z never paid my bills, never done anything for me. The Super Bowl never paid my bills, never done anything for me. I think sometimes that we get caught up in escapism and we think that that matters more than anything. Like the fact that Minister Louis Farrakhan was banned off social media platform was way bigger than Cat being banned. Cat was playing football, right? Football I don't even care for. I notice that's the man's dream and I'm empathetic in that aspect. But even Cat, you know, didn't tell people that he was taking that deal, and he left a lot of people looking funny, you know what I mean, that was backing him. And now he can't even speak on it. And so even the divisiveness and how everything took place, it was like, it's different from the outside looking in to being closer to the situation and knowing what's happening, right? So it's like, the optics of it look bad because I seen that they just hired like Jennifer Lopez and somebody else to headline the Super Bowl, and they got some other white lady or some Chicago organization that cuts off the dreads of young black men, and you know, all for All Lives Matter and a bunch of other crap. But it's like I've never expected nothing from the Super Bowl but the bullshit that they've been producing, and this Super Bowl, based on what I've seen thus far, is more bullshit that they producing. Right? Jay-Z involved or not. You know what I mean? Now, the justification is to say that some of the money goes towards social, you know what I mean, justice programs. So there might actually be some black men who benefit being able to get off of jail or whatever it may be. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the full ramifications of it. Or it could just be another capitalist move that Jay-Z has made to line his pockets up with some more money. But that's what Jay-Z said he was doing from the start. But I think that we have too much false expectations for rappers to be our leaders and messiahs when they've never stepped into position to say that that's what I'm willing to do. The 10% is cool, the small little, let me throw a couple of gems and shit in there. Man, I'm going to be honest. I find about two people that I think that do a great job. And that's like T.I. and like Killer Mike, or 3P, I say David Bannon. And I say it because they do it where it's a small percent of rappers who actually live the lifestyle where they're putting themselves on the forefront more and more often. So it'd be harder to scrutinize some men like that because they're the 1% of hip hop, right? But they know everybody else. So everybody else watching and seeing their example, but they're not following it. How come y'all not following suit? And the only time they will is when they seem and feel like it will benefit them for capital. Not because it's attached to their character, because most people are fearful. And the African caste system, it talks about how the artisans, right, they have a place in the world, right? So they're kind of middle class, right? They inherit this place in the world where they have a little power in the world. So it's like the only people who have a real significant want for the current world to fall are the people at the lowest, people at the bottom of the totem pole. Right? Because they have the most to gain if this world falls when they have nothing in the game. So if the people that are celebrities, people that are rich, and it's like they don't want this world to fall because so does the position that they just gained. So it's like I want the world to change a little bit. I want it to tweak. Matter of fact, I want the sheep to be comfortable with what the wolves and shepherds are doing, but I don't want to mess with my position in the game. Right? And so they may be more familiar with their Jewish billionaire buddies than they can ever be with relating to you from the streets and you giving them your perspective based on the moves that they're making. Because a person can be so out of touch from their roots. It's not that hard. When you remove yourself from an environment and a place and you're surrounded by different mindsets, you become that. So it's like we view these rappers through their music, but that's not who they are. And so it's like you have a very skewed version of who these people are. They're getting dressed by these European designers and they're surrounded by all of these bunch of weirdos all day long. So I'm sure if you sat with them, we would consider them to be very weird. But here's the responsibility that every rapper has, is that every rapper is a leader. They're a leader by default because people follow them and they influence people through the music. The problem is that they don't want to design themselves with great leadership competency, and they don't want to take on effectively becoming a role model in leadership position. They don't want to have to lead people by example and do the right thing. They want to come once a year and tell you to vote and be like, oh, that was my social activism. That to me ain't shit. And I know a lot of people can be happy with the crap that they're doing, but it's like, if you think about the people that we look up to, it's because they did it 90 to 100% of the time. Ain't no 10% legends. Yeah, I mean, nobody give a damn what you did 10% of the time. That you got to be 100 in. You know what I mean? And so
I'm consistent with it.
yeah, but like I said, I don't know Jay-Z. I don't know nothing about that NFL stuff because that don't feed my family. I don't feed my moms. That won't change the world. The NFL could crumble today and I wouldn't care.
And that's real. Real talk. Honest. Thank you. Thank you for that. Some people are wanting to know some stuff here. Your observations. Your experience of the Black British culture and the feel.
Black British. I would have to spend more time to give an in-depth analysis of what the culture is out here. I asked a question to some young ladies on the panel, what does black mean to them? And I got a variety of different answers that gave me insight on how we view black and how you all view black. Because we view it from different lenses and different experiences. In America, most people view through the lens of, slavery and Jim Crow era and the fight between black and white and racism, right? So there's a whole different relationship that we have when it comes to expressing ourselves and what that means and finding our identity. And there's a lot of people out here who view it through the duality of being, right, the British or the European side, and then the Caribbean roots that they have, and addressing that as their identity. But there's a different type of anger that we display in America because we look directly at the people around us as the perpetrators of our past. We say, you are the slave master's children and you're still living in this house while I'm still robbed of opportunity, and this world is continuing to be perpetuated. So there's a rightful, of course, and then we've dealt with so much in America when it comes to the black experience, knowing we cannot trust this government, knowing that the government is wicked, looking at all of the experiments that they ran on people and black people specifically, from St. Louis to the Tuskegee and all of the murders that's been happening today. And so our experience is different, and so many people wanted to believe that racism was not in existence. But then white people was like, wait a minute, we're going to give y'all Trump to prove this shit is here. Right? So it's like people wanted to close their eyes, but they couldn't because it put it right in front of you. Right? And then out here, it's interesting because you all still know that, the people who have the power in parliament, the people like you got a whole white queen out here. Y'all just got a half-breed princess, but that don't really mean too much.
No,
you got a whole white queen that got hella gold out here. And so it's like, it's hard, I believe, for any people that is under the tutelage of white power, because that's exactly what that is. That is a family bloodline of white supremacy and power, and they're very fucking racist. So I think when it's like, there's the conscious community out here I see struggling to get away from the validation of any white extensions on who they are, right? Saying that we still work with you, but you don't validate me. But see, the problem with that is, as long as you're being funded and you're backed by these entities, right, but they allow you to have some unapologeticness, that's not enough. Right? You have to get to a place where you own it, where you don't need them, where you're completely separate. That's the place where you all will get to where you will really be able to flourish and really be able to be your unapologetic, authentic, natural selves. But as long as you even have to be, like, you have to put on a sass or put on an attitude to let them know, like, I'm not under your thumb, that kind of means you still are, right? Because it's like, it's a rebellion. It's an extra umph to be like, look, you don't own me. But it's like, you never have to tell somebody they don't own you if they don't. It's like, so it's like we got to get to a place of what power. That's why I always say it's not about freedom, it's about power. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think all of us are searching for the same thing, but our lens of what it means to be black in this world is curated, us still trying to find ourselves from colonization, from oppression, from racism, from apartheid, all across the world. We have to stop viewing our lens from the rebellion of white supremacy. And we have to start viewing it from the authority of what it means to be black gods and original people on this planet Earth. That's my thoughts.
Thank you. Words sound power. Power sound words. Right, this right here, we need to touch on here.
The gold water.
This sacred, ancient element right here, I'd love for you to just share with the people. I've actually recently, this year, I've learned about some of the family of this sacredness right here. Just formidable, and it just seeing you with this and aligning with you is just confirmation on my journey that you're on the right track. Keep on learning, keep on growing, keep on evolving. Self-evolution is key. And this right here, brother, please.
Thank you. The gold water.
Yes, please.
The gold water, that's something that's been in the black family for a long time. The Egyptians used to utilize gold as the elixir of immortality. They used to take it in what's called ormuz in a white powder form, and they would break it down to particle size. And so they would ingest it, and they believe by ingesting it over a 9-month period, more gold accumulates in your system and you become a god.
Number 9, remember that. Numerology, we're going to touch on that in a bit.
And so
yes, please.
The Egyptians would ingest the gold, and scientists later on discovered the properties of gold: electrical conductivity and anti-inflammation within the body. So it means that we need this element for life itself. So what it does is, in my studies, I find that it stimulates the brain, specifically the area in the brain of the hippocampus area. A lot of people say that their focus increases, their problem-solving ability, their IQ, they're more clear, their memory, depression, mood, all of those things are balanced out and better. And I asked myself, well, why? Right? It's not enough to just hear, right, people say it, because it has to be some root that it does. And it's not that gold specifically targets those things, but it's a byproduct of the area that gold stimulates. So by increasing the electricity that stimulates the area of the hippocampus, that's the area that actually regulates mood, memory, and learning, right? So when you're talking about mood, you're talking about a connection to depression. You're talking about memory, you're talking about a person being able to pull from their own thoughts so that they can utilize their intelligence, right? So you're talking about a person's ability, even after 25, the hippocampus area of your brain changes. So you need to stimulate that in different ways to continue to be able to learn. Right before 25, it's easier for your neuroplasticity to be able to connect the dots. So what you're talking about essentially is you're getting people to even have deeper sleeps. So that area of the brain regulates melatonin. Melatonin would allow you to go into that deeper sleep. So when you go into that deep sleep, that REM sleep is when you can start lucid dreaming, right? Like when I talk about black people needing to dream again, is vital. We sleep 40% of our lives, right? But in that dream state, we can actually use the utility of our imagination to produce our reality. Meaning that we can go inside our minds, we can take ideas, and then once we get those ideas that are not thinking inside the box, we can pull them out and we can execute. But if you're stuck with just the sight of the external reality that you live, you can never become a visionary because your imagination is not active. So there's people who took the gold and they tell us that, I had my first dream in years. There's some people who tell us they had their first lucid dream in years. And the lucid dream, for those who don't know, is when a dreamer realizes they're dreaming. It's when you're in the inner dimension of your own mind and you're still aware. Your pineal gland, which basically had the same properties of your actual physical eyes, is open. It has crystals there. It has gold there. So it's like being able to go into a deeper sleep, you wake up refreshed because your mind secretes a fluid over the ridges of your brain. Not your mind, but your brain secretes a fluid over the ridges of your brain, and it clears out the neurotoxins that build throughout the day. That's why we need our sleep. So when we get the proper amount of sleep, you wake up refreshed. all the things that you learned throughout the day were able to connect. So now you're even able to pull on more of your memory. So now you feel smarter, right? You feel more focused. That prefrontal cortex has got its rest. So now you can focus your thinking. You can calm your state. So when you wake up in the morning, you're not foggy, you clear. But we're supposed to be like that. It's just that all of the unnatural elements that we put in our body robs of the mineralization that we have in our body. So if you're eating consistent foods that are not electrical, of course you need something else to continuously help electrify your body. But I tell people, don't wait for the gold to work for you. I need you to work for the gold.
Hey.
Right? The gold can help activate your DNA, but you got to eat right. You got to think right. You got to be in the right environment. You have to make sure that everything else is conducive to electrifying your body and your system. But adding the gold just consistently over time is good as far as just having your body more electrical in your system and on a metaphysical level and a bunch of different levels. So the goal is to get everybody on the gold. Yeah, I mean, it's like let's take what our ancient ancestors were doing, right? So we can start building things as great as the pyramids. Coming to the UK, I think solidifies intention for me more so than having any coming here, because so many people reached out to me when I came here. I think from any city that I've visited thus far, you know, coming out the country, so many people in the UK actually tapped in and want to meet. So now I want to make sure that I have the ability to meet and collaborate with as many people as possible, and also figure out what's missing here and how I can create a connection, right, to be a resource to the people that's out here, because I've experienced people from all walks of life walking up to me and tapping in. You know what I mean? Indian, Mexican, Arabian, Black, whatever it may be. And I find that very interesting because you all are, I mean, wherever there's Black people, you know what I mean? That's our people, right? You all have a different accent. That's it, right? But you still are people, you know what I mean? So a man like Keys got to come out here and tap in with the people. And if any knowledge of self and any resource that I can give and provide what's missing out here, I would love to just create an establishment where I'm going back and forth and we building, because we don't have to be local, man. Right, we can be international, man, as long as we comprise international plans. And that's how you might have some resources over here I might have resources over there you need. And therefore, we have that global, right, resource to where it's like we can never find ourselves without, when all we have to do is go wherever it is, right? Instead of saying that, it's not in our environment, so what? Let me go to the UK and get it then, right? Maybe somebody out there can help me build. Maybe I can help you build out here. So, you know, I think it's just about more so establishing an international presence, right? So that we can continue to exist and help people all around the world.